If you're someone who wants to be a little bit more engaging on LinkedIn, but can't get beyond shyly liking a colleague's post about their recent promotion or sharing those dull as dishwater company updates, you'll want to tune in to this Joy at Work conversation with Mel Booth. I sought out Mel because she's a digital marketing consultant and a co founder of the Marketing Lab. But more importantly, she is a self proclaimed lover of LinkedIn. In this conversation, she gives practical ideas on how to be more human on LinkedIn while presenting yourself to your current and your potential future employers in ways that don't appear robotic, boring, or just bleh. Let's dive in. Mel, here's a story I hear all the time from mid-career professionals. They've been lurking on LinkedIn for a long time. And by lurking, I simply mean occasionally pressing the like button on a colleague's promotional post. They feel they should be more visible on LinkedIn, but when faced with a blank post, they're just stuck. Yeah, they can't figure out what to write, who to write it for, how to write it, what to start with, or who's gonna care. So it all feels way too complicated, so they just give up. Is that level of discomfort something you've experienced in your clients?
I think there's a real mixed reason as to why people feel that on LinkedIn. And I think it's that element of it's a personal profile and yet it's a professional space. They are often getting feedback from might be the marketing, might be business, company updates about can you reshare? So it becomes like it's not their account, but actually it is their account. By the time people are mid career, we don't want to be necessarily just sharing what we've been told to share. We've got more to say, but equally, we're not a generation that are really au fait with social media and what to share and what's personal and what's professional. And I think all of those things, as you say, reach a point where you look at it and go, this is too complicated. And it's scary. And it's a real shame because I think there is such an opportunity on there to be visible. There's so much you can do in terms of your career and how you become known. There is a sweet spot for everyone, which is that point of who do they work for? What industry are they in? What's the
Mhm.
company messaging around that? And then it's them and their role and what feels authentic to them. And describe it as a Venn diagram. There is an overlap where those two things actually are the sweet spot. That's about what you can talk about. And it's where those aspects of your professional life and potentially some of your personal values come
Mhm.
into play. And actually, when you say that, people say, what do people care? Do they care what I share? No, they probably don't if it's another company update, but they do when it's that sweet spot of you sharing just enough of your experience and knowledge and wisdom and that insight, because we're all human beings, we're all a bit nosy,
Mhm.
but that it sits well within the company and sector that you work in. And that
Lovely.
sweet spot that we try and help people find, because once you do, you literally bypass that staring at a blank page thinking, what do I share? What do I do?
Okay, so let me ask you more about that. So let's say you're thinking, yes, I've got my business persona, I've got my human persona, and something in the middle is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what sort of sharing? Can we be a bit more specific? What sort of sharing really works that hits that lovely sweet spot that you've talked about?
I think people get very hung up on content and about sharing because that's how all of the other social media platforms work. It's about your connections. So it's about making sure the people that you're connected to are relevant. They're not just people you work with, or alternatively, they're not just people you worked with 30 years ago, which have nothing to do with what you do now and aren't interesting or relevant to what you're doing. So it
Yeah.
is about making sure you've got those connections. And it is about commenting and engaging in that way because it is a social networking platform. It just happens to be for business more than your social life. And then when it comes to content, the more you engage and the more you see what the industry are talking about, what other connections that actually you're influenced by are talking about, suddenly that idea around what can I share becomes so much easier. And a good performing post on LinkedIn, when it does come to saying, actually, yeah, I have got something I want to share, a text post with a single image will do really well for you in terms of
Okay.
engagement. Yes, it's interesting if you can do video. Most people don't want to go down that route.
So
For
as simple as that, just keeping it nice and simple.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have lots of mid-career professionals just listening to us at this moment in time. And I know they want to take action. And you've made it really simple in understanding who and why, but I want to get even clearer on where to start. Can you share maybe 2 or 3 ideas on what they can do next week to start showing up in LinkedIn in ways that will benefit their future career?
So, for a really quick win, I would encourage people to comment on a post from
Yes.
someone outside of your organization and don't sit on the fence. Okay, so make sure it's something that you're genuinely interested in, a topic that you can add value to, and actually put a comment in there that gives an opinion that adds some value to the conversation. And if you can, look to actually engage the person that shared the post. So when you put your comment, in the same way you would do with a conversation, often a comment leads to another question,
Hmm.
is to, in that comment, include a further question that then pulls more information from the person who's done the post. This literally can take 2 to 3 minutes because if it's something that's authentically of interest to you,
Yeah.
that making that comment and engaging that conversation is a really quick win. But take the plunge if you haven't done that and definitely do that. The other thing I'd say is work on your connections. People worry a lot about unconnecting, defriending, whatever word you want to use people. People do not get a notification of this on LinkedIn. They won't know. So it really helps in terms of the quality of what you see in your newsfeed to
Hmm.
have relevant connections. So if all you can do is spend 5 minutes deleting some connections and
Enough.
5 minutes actually looking at who can I connect with in my industry? Where are the
Mhm.
people that actually we have real synergy in terms of what we're doing? It might be that it's personally of interest to you. Is there someone who is that little bit further in their career in another
Mhm.
organization that actually this is a great person to be connected with? So just a really short splurge of
Yes.
working on your connections. And my final one would be if people can take the jump and share some content. And I don't mean about a company award or about somebody that's a new joiner in the company. Exactly. Because there are enough of those. And actually, those are the ones that often do switch people off. So
Yes.
I would encourage someone to share something. For example, could they talk about if they were giving advice to someone starting their career 20 years
Mhm.
ago, what's their best pearl of wisdom that they could share about someone starting off in their industry that they've learned from? So it's relevant because it's relevant to the sector, to their audience, but also it's providing insight that people will find invaluable. They
And that
do
might
something,
prompt someone else, wouldn't it? That might prompt someone else to say, "Oh, well, here's mine." And then
yeah, yeah,
someone else, "Here's mine." And that's a lovely post to
exactly.
read.
And
Yes.
what I really like actually is often when people go, I'm going to share this, for example, with a group of students, or my child is thinking about going into that as a career. I'm definitely going to share that with them. So it really genuinely sparks conversation. Or if something like that feels a bit too scary, could they address a myth about the industry they're in? Is there something that actually, when they're sat in meetings or they go along and potentially dealing with clients or other organizations, is there a myth about their industry that actually they could do a bit of myth busting and say, we
Lovely.
don't spend all day doing this. This is what we actually do. Because there's so many industries that I think are misconstrued or that people just don't really understand enough about. So is there something that they could share that is a bit of a myth buster? And I would say all they need to do is think about sharing something short, 2 or 3 short paragraphs.
Yeah.
And if they can, share a picture of themselves. I'm not talking about their professional headshot. Ideally, not a security pass photograph or anything like that, but a really simple photograph of themselves. Any faces that are included when you share content, you'll see the content, you'll see the engagement absolutely rocket.
Really.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. If you enjoyed this, you might also enjoy my life satisfaction assessment. It's a 30-minute program where I guide you through a deep dive into 10 areas of your life to assess what's bringing you joy and what's bringing you down. I call it Derailed. It's a fabulous place to begin a joy at work redesign.